All right, welcome in everybody. A little bit of a shift here. Everybody's used to the 10-minute drill so far in the first part of the year being a produced show that Robert has done an incredible job of trying to make look crisp and clean, and we had a lot of fun with that. And we proved that out. This is a new year for us. We're trying to learn some new things about what our capabilities are. And those of you that have not joined Robert's live streams, you now see the green screen behind him. So you got to see that this was actually what he was standing in front of when he was in the theater, the studio, so to speak. So but yeah, just wanted to say up top that we're going to try some new things. We're going to try to figure out how to best deliver this product and other products throughout the year. So we're going to shift a little bit. Sorry about last week, guys.
It's good you own it at the start. We wanted it to work. It had a lot of heart.
Here's the thing. So those of you that watched it last week, I had an idea. I was going to be at the game. Why not live stream the 10-minute drill while I was in the audience, while I was at the stadium? How cool would that be? And in hindsight, it would have worked better had I done it as a tailgate. Had I just said, Robert, I'm popping up on the tailgate. Let's do this now. Because even though there was loud music at tailgates, it wasn't nearly the concert that I was in while I was at Soldier Field. I could not find a quiet area to do this show. And I'm walking around talking to Robert, trying to see where I could find. I ran into the stadium part where it was covered. Well, then all the cement was messing up my cell signal. So then I couldn't get him. I ran up a flight of stairs. And I didn't realize where I was going. I was just walking into a restricted area because I was trying to find a place that I could hear myself talk to Robert. So I almost got tackled by security for going into a restricted area. So that wasn't very good. So I went back to the seat, and then we started, and Robert said, well, show your camera, which was the whole point of me not showing the camera because I couldn't hear him. So then I showed the camera, and then when I backed out of it, I got kicked out of the meeting. And then that just kept happening and I couldn't hear him. But thank you for trying to watch it last week. We really appreciate that. And thank you, Robert, for trying to pull that off as the host, even though conditions were not great. So,
I mean, I've been on enough Fritzy podcasts where somebody just dropped off like right before the end of the show that it was fun to manage, like you're talking about. And I mean, hey, everything, Jeff, was so high going into that game that it was a lot more fun than the end result was. But hey, that's why we do the 10-minute drill, is to get set for the next game and not to pull you right back on topic. If anything, I'm glad you have a hosting role, because I feel like you didn't get to talk enough on the other one, or like the other way we were doing it. But we get to preview a Monday night game that, well, the Bears are going to be on national television. And unfortunately, I do worry that people are just going to see more of the same from last week, just based on the opponent they're facing.
Yeah, you wonder if ESPN's viewership is at least less than the Sunday night game on NBC, right? Because everybody gets NBC. Not everybody has cable. So, maybe there's a little bit of saving there. I think that there might be like, championship league series baseball that goes on Monday night. So maybe there will be some diversion because it could get ugly quick. I mean, again, this is, we'll get into it here in a second, but
we're still running the drill.
Yeah, of course. We're going to run the drill. Yeah, we're going to run the drill here. So it's a well-coached team. I think that's the general theme here. And we will, we'll get going on that. So why don't we do that? Why don't we show our visuals here, and we will hit. I'm just going to time this on my phone. I got a 10-minute timer on, and we're going to see how we do it this way. So it'd be cool to show it on the screen. Maybe we'll get there. I don't have a timer on the screen, but I got my phone right here, and so let's hit a timer and let's see how this works out. So Robert, 10 minutes on the clock. I'm going to point to you, and you start previewing this game. Ready?
The Chicago Bears are taking on the New England Patriots on Monday Night Football, 1 week removed from Thursday night's game against the Commanders. And when the Bears have the football, they are going to be going up against, completely seriously, Jeff, one of the toughest defenses in football. Not only is Matthew Judon and the rest of that defensive line phenomenal, but they're playing a heavy man coverage defense that has the dudes to run with your guys. And for a team like the Bears that's undermanned, I actually think that's a huge problem, because when you're already going up against a heavy man defense, that means that Justin Fields can't lean on his plays and play caller to Jimmy loose free yardage against zones. Every zone defense, no matter how well you run match cover zone, is going to have holes. Whether somebody can cover those holes up because of raw talent it depends on the player, but every zone defense has holes. When it comes to man defenses, though, Jeff, it speaks for itself. If Darnell Mooney can't beat Kyle Duggar, or if Cole Kmet can't take on any of the linebackers that New England has, there's just no room to throw. And I do worry, we don't usually express opinions on the drill, but I do worry that this is going to put Justin Fields in even more of a pressure cooker than he was on Thursday night, but it probably will look similar, as if the line can't hold, there will be a lot of pressure, both in Justin Fields' face and on Justin Fields' shoulders, to create the plays that the Bears will need on offense to keep up. What are you seeing from stats?
Right, Robert. So a lot of what you're saying is just a well-coached team. There's not a lot of people out there that could name this defense from top to bottom, but they are incredibly well coached. And part of that is that they take away the football. This is a lot of what Coach Eberflus has tried to preach for the Chicago Bears. Bill Belichick has been doing that preaching for a very long time. They are very good at taking away the football. They're averaging 2 takeaways per game. That's among the league leaders. On the other side of that, the Bears 1.7 turnovers, giveaways per game when they're on offense. That's one of the higher rates in the league as well. So when you combine an offense that's been giving the ball away a lot with a defense that's been taking it away a lot, that really spells trouble for the Chicago Bears here. So if they are going to have a chance in this one, they're going to need to really focus on taking care of the football, because this team, incredibly well coached, they play well on the margins. They are going to try to find a way to either force fumbles or take away the football from Justin Fields when he throws the ball. So the stats are really not aligned with Chicago here. They're really in favor of this New England defense taking the ball away.
And speaking of, Jeff, who's your matchup when it comes to Bears offense versus Patriots defense?
Yeah, for me, I think there's a lot of really interesting players on this Patriots defense. I think Kyle Duggar is a guy that I want to watch more of. He's a strong safety. I'm going to sit him in the run game. Really interests me here. I think the Bears are going to try to want to run here. David Montgomery needs to get going a little bit again after coming back from that injury. So what does Kyle Duggar bring to the run game for the Patriots defense? And can he neutralize David Montgomery and put Justin Fields in a position where he has to put more on his shoulders, which would potentially lead to even more opportunities for mistakes? So can David Montgomery beat Kyle Duggar in those one-on-one situations, shake loose for bigger gains? What about you? What's your matchup?
Well, that brings me to my matchup, as a matter of fact, because if the Bears can't get anything going on the run game, Matthew Judon, who generally lines up over the right tackle, is going to have a big matchup against Larry Borum. If Borum can keep Judon out of Fields' lap, then whether it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 10, or God forbid 3rd and 20, Jeff, Fields will have the time to scan the field and try to find somebody open. We could highlight, because it's a man defense, almost literally every player on the Bears. But if Judon beats you, then you did a lot wrong as an offense. So I expect Borum to shoulder the most of the weight, but I also expect some pretty heavy chips to try to slow him down. And if they can keep him from being a factor, who knows? Maybe something truly special happens. But as you know, Jeff, the Bears aren't going to be the Bears offense isn't the only ones playing. The Bears defense will take on the Patriots when the Patriots have the ball. And this is a really interesting scheme to talk about, because they looked like a mess for about 3 weeks. It's not necessarily Mac Jones's fault, but I think that they thought that they could get away from basics in year 2 of Mac Jones's career. And when he got hurt, and Bailey Zappi came in, it's not that Zappi's played phenomenally, Jeff. It's that the offense went back to basics. They simplified the scheme. They made sure everything that what they were doing made things as easy as possible on the quarterback. And I think that it really helped them. It's now a very consistent offense that, especially if they can continue to run the football fairly well, should be able to make some noise against the Bears defense that struggled against teams that can run the ball well. But if the Bears are going to do, or if they can build on what they did last week, throwing money or tons more schemes, tons more schematic, or like tons more blitzes, disguises, mug fronts, drop fronts, they blitzed Roquan a lot, then they may be able to make like life tough on a Patriots offense that, hey, they played the Browns last week. The Bears defense is better than that. What are you seeing from stats?
5.1. That's the yards per attempt for Ramondre Stevenson, their second-year running back. Very good player that you may not have heard of unless you're in the fantasy football world and know that you can count on him. A lot of times, Bill Belichick running backs, you just want to run the other way when it comes to your fantasy team because you can't trust them week to week. Stevenson, you have been able to trust. He's been really good. And again, and not a guy that a lot of people have heard of unless you're watching a lot of AFC football. Really impressed with him. That's a really high number. That's like Nick Chubb type running numbers. And so if the Patriots are able to get that kind of production out of their lead back against a defense that quite frankly has not been very good at all at stopping the run, then this could be trouble here. I'm just going to run that right into my matchup. That's my matchup of the week. Again, I keep putting a spotlight on Roquan. If you want to be one of the highest paid linebackers in the league, then you got to show up and you got to neutralize the opponent's best player when that player is a running back or when that player is maybe a tight end, right? In this particular situation, Ramondre Stevenson needs to be neutralized. Roquan Smith versus Ramondre Stevenson is my matchup of the week. What about you?
And Jeff, you know that you've taken best on best a lot in the past. I tend to gravitate towards a Bears role player that has a big task ahead of them. And nobody has a bigger task this week than Kyler Gordon, who seemed to play a lot more nickel corner than usual last week in base defense as he actually came off the field. And he's going to be going up against not only Jacoby Myers, but now Tyquan Thornton, who's come off of injured reserve and seems to be getting some work in the slot. Kyler Gordon had a very good last week against the Commanders, but this is where the Patriots do a lot of their damage. Yes, they've got guys like Devontae Parker on the outside that they tend to go to when they really need a bucket, but if they can't stop their electric slot players, they're not going to be able to do much on defense. So that's somebody that I would be keeping an eye on, number 6, just like offenses have for the last bunch of weeks in a row. And hopefully the Bears win, but whatever happens on the field, you at home could be winning as well. As Jeff, what are you seeing from prop bets this week?
All right, so I went on to our friends over there. I make sure you're using that promo code that's on your screen to pull up all of their prop bets from this game. I threw them on the screen, so we're going to just kind of look at those and see which ones we like best. We will go over a bunch of prop bets on Sunday morning with Ross Reed. So if you guys are into this, please join me on the Gambler's Den on Sunday mornings. But this is what's available now. There will be more throughout the weekend that get added. I think that one that jumps out to me, Darnell Mooney, a 9 fantasy score. So basically, this is PPR fantasy scoring. So you get 1 point for every reception. You get 1 point for every 10 yards. And I think that Bill Belichick is going to try to neutralize Justin Fields running the football. I think that is what he is going to try to take away, which means that he is going to spend one of his defensive players as a spy. I think that is exactly what he's going to do, which means that he's going to say, we're going to try to make Justin Fields beat us with his arm. I think that means that Darnell Mooney is going to get targeted early and often in this one. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty. I'm not saying it's going to be efficient, but I think that 6 catches for 60 yards is not a crazy number. That's 12 fantasy points. That'll get you over that 9. So to me, that's the one that sticks out as the most likely for the Bears to top here is Darnell Mooney over 9 fantasy points.
So, Jeff, you know that I'm an optimistic guy, or at least I try to be. But when I go to a dark place, I go to a dark place. And I don't see how the Patriots come out of this game with less than 3 sacks. This feels like a very safe bet to me, to where the Patriots will keep their money, or like you'll keep your money at the very least, because I can't imagine you won't push with this. Fields is holding onto the ball a lot. It's not necessarily all his fault. Schematically, the Bears are calling a lot of long drop passes. Even their screens, Jeff, are taking upwards of 3 seconds to get the ball out of Fields' hands. So a noisy defensive line that's created a lot of problems in the past. And like you mentioned, I also think they're going to try to take away Fields' running. And what do you call a quarterback scramble that doesn't make it back to the line? A sack. So I tend to think that the Bears are going to be in trouble. And within that, Jeff, I know we're over time, but I can't not mention that this feels like a bad week to start Justin Fields in fantasy. I would probably list him down because if Fields, especially if the Patriots offense takes a 2-score lead, which we really haven't seen the Bears in that situation much outside of Minnesota, it won't surprise me to see Justin start forcing the ball a little more than normal and could easily lead to an interception or two. I mean, one pat or a picked off pass, a couple sacks taken, and an interception. That's a rough day for fantasy. And 13.5, which would be very achievable for a lot of quarterbacks, seems like the wrong weekend to bet on Fields, if you're asking me.
It's a tough weekend to bet on Fields. I agree. Since you got 2 in, I will take one more. I actually do not like this line for Jacoby Myers. I think he's a very nice player. He's talented. He's a good player for the Patriots. But the master of game planning, Bill Belichick, I think is going to see the weakness of the Chicago Bears defense as their run game. They can't stop it. Ramondre Stevenson's averaging 5.1 a carry. Again, if I had a Ramondre Stevenson prop bet up here, I'm going to take it. I think he's going to run early and often, and I think that they are going to just tell the Bears, we're going to do this until you stop, until you prove you can stop it. And Belichick is more than comfortable in doing that. I don't think he really needs to throw the ball. Mac Jones, he's either going to be coming back from an injury or it's going to be Bailey Zappi again. Either way, I don't really think that they need to throw the ball much here. Belichick knows that. So I would actually just bet on game flow that Jacoby Myers would be under 11.5. So we went a little over there. That's the 10-minute drill for us. That's the preview. That's okay. We went live. We weren't sure exactly what it is. And we didn't have your fine editing skills.
No, and that really does cut down at least a minute.
I mean, because really, you can chop out stuff that we messed up, and you were able to. I mean, I swear one time you just sped me up so that I talked faster. So, I mean, just a little behind the scenes. I feel like that's what happened.
Well, no, what I'd do is I'd cut your pauses out because every once in a while, your natural cadence, Jeff, is much more, I have a beer in my hand out on your front porch like Bears over beers. And this is a little bit more of a let's talk quickly and get the show out kind of thing. So it's a fun show. This is a game that I'm a Bears fan. I'm going to watch it. I love watching the Bears, but also I am excited that this game, Jeff, is on Monday night and not part of Sunday afternoon because it means that we get to take part in the Sunday afternoon bonanza and then we can watch the Bears when just the Bears are on. This feels like a great game. Ironically, Jeff, this feels like a great game as a Bears fan to have as the only game in football so that you don't miss a barn burner somewhere else in the league because you're watching your team. That's the most optimistic thing I can say about it. You know what I mean?
It's totally fair. Highlighted a comment from our friend Sam Householder. Why you be so mean? Why you be so mean, Sam? Is it because I called you out for your cowardly betting on the Thursday night game last night?
What?
He went both ways. He said that he was betting the Cardinals money line and the Saints plus 1.5, meaning that he was either trying to thread the needle by saying that the Cardinals were going to win by 1 so that he could win both bets, or he just wanted to chop it in half and say, I'm going one way here and one way here, and I'm just taking a split. So maybe that's it. Maybe he's mad at me for calling him out on Twitter.
Maybe. Though I'll tell you what, JB, just because normally we started hitting this pace near the end of the 10-minute, or not end, but like over the last couple episodes that we did, was that we would kind of talk out our feelings about the game after we'd run the drill, right? And I will say this, the truly, as much as I said, the last thing I said was optimistic, we all know it was kind of sad. The true most optimistic thing that we can say about this is that when a bad offense goes up against a bad defense, then it gets hung around their neck when they don't have a great day. The Bears last week had 400 yards of offense and nobody cares because they came away with 7 points, which fair result. But there was a day and age where getting over 300 yards of offense was caused to like pop piñatas, and 400 yards of offense, really not so bad. The Patriots defense, if it shuts the Bears out, will be living up to expectation. If Justin Fields can make some plays within this framework against this really, really, really solid Patriots defense, like you said, it's not that they're studs and duds. They're just all pretty good, which is, I think, a nightmare matchup for the Bears. But I do think that it gives you that whole no expectations. What can you do for us? And hopefully it leads to Justin Fields. I mean, again, ironically, developing better habits in the pocket as he gets borne down on over the next 2 weeks between this and the Dallas game. But there is a caveat where this is also a hotbed for bad habits, and fingers crossed that that's not the route we start going down.
I mean, at this point in the year, if you're a Bears fan, you shouldn't have expectations. Maybe there should be some minor expectations when the Bears take on, say, like the Lions. Not that the Lions are a bad football team. Obviously, they have not been good so far. But in terms of like, hey, the Bears should be competitive here, and in hope that they can win at least one of those. But for the most part, the Bears are not going to be favored in many games or any games for the remainder of the year because they're they're going to be the less talented team every time they play. So thanks, Axel. Appreciate that comment, Axel, as well. We think it's fun. We want to keep it brief, but we want to give you some hitting, some quick hitters to kind of take into account when you watch the game. So hopefully that works for you. And Sam, I'm just giving you a hard time. So, but Robert, other than that, man, I mean, it's Friday night. You have a wedding to go to, so I don't want to keep you. Are you wearing this coat that you have on now to the wedding? Of course, and that's your formal wear, right?
I'm a groomsman in this. It's one of my best friends from high school, and I specifically said, you can't separate me from my Bears jacket. So
you own one formal wear.
That's it. I don't take this off.
Right.
Like every time you guys see me in a sweater on
that's on over the top of that
breaking down the Bears. Yeah, it's over the top of the jacket.
Right. I mean, I get asked to wear this all the time. People want to know where it's from.
Well, look at that. I mean, that plus the pin and the tie.
Yeah. I have another pin too. I was going to switch it out. I have all their pins that I can't find, but I have this pin. I thought about maybe using this.
Ooh, that's nice too.
An actual bear.
Right.
I don't know.
Both are great pins.
Maybe. We'll see. I got a bunch of that. I got a bunch of random bear stuff.
Jeff, I can't help but feel like but you asked like one last thing to close it out. I can't help but feel like everybody is expecting my whole life. Every time I've expected the Bears to do something, they tend not to. I expected them to have a really great game against the Commanders last week because I thought Justin Fields was ready for it. It's not that he played badly. The team just did not play well in general. The defense did, but going all the way back down to Velas's second muff in 3 weeks, I mean, it was, the feel of the game, which you and I talk about all the time privately, was bad. This game, hey, by the same token, if the Bears if the Bears don't do what they normally do, this is one of those surprise games where none of the Bears fan base is expecting them to be competitive, but the Patriots haven't really blown anybody out this year, including the Lions game, where the Lions failed on not one, not two, but at least three. I'm going off the top of memory, but at least three like goal line plays. They failed on fourth down, which is mostly what led to the shutout. So if we get a little bit, especially if we get some early season style Patriots, the Bears could be surprisingly competitive, if only because the Patriots, like you mentioned, aren't loaded with crazy talent. A lot of the talent they have, though, is better than Chicago's. So, I mean, I'm not trying to pretend that, what is it, an 8.5 point line?
I think it's 8 right now, but yeah.
Vegas isn't wrong.
Say that here's the cool thing, and I know that people don't like Bill Belichick, but if you care at all about history of the game, he is an incredibly big part of it. And I don't really care where you start dividing credit for the Patriots dynasty between him and Brady. I think it does without each other. That doesn't happen. But even so, he's incredible. I think he's still incredible without Brady. Very good defensive game planner. The best probably we've ever seen. He's going to pass George Halas for most combined regular season and postseason wins if they win this game. If not, he'll pass it in a week or two. So there is something pretty powerful about the fact that the schedule just happened to play out this way, and he gets a chance to pass Halas against the Bears. It's pretty cool. I like the history part of all of this, and so if nothing else, just kind of take that in and respect that, and enjoy maybe multiple George Halas references in this one.
Well, and worth remembering, Jeff, Bill Belichick, as Derek mentioned, is a massive Bears fan because he spent 7 minutes in his presser just talking the Bears up. But tongue in
That's what he
cheek
does to
aside,
every team. And but he did mention Trenton Gill, so he's got a warm place in my heart that he mentioned the guillotine. So
the
very excited about that.
guillotine, baby. But yeah, it should be a fun game. Every Bears game is, but it'll definitely be one that, like we always say, Jeff, you'll be there. It'll be still Sunday morning. Gambler's Den doesn't move with the game, right?
Nope, no, because Gambler's Den is the league. So every Sunday morning, you got to set your fantasy lineup. You got to set your bets for the day. So Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, Ross Reed, normally Eric Smith. He's got a pinch hitter this week. And we'll go through all of your last minute needs on everything from prop bets, betting lines, fantasy, survivor, any questions that you have. So join us then.
That's awesome. And then obviously right after the game, I think this is Bill Zimmerman's week, as he'll join me on Bear With Me. And if the Bear, one way or another, Bill is a volcano of emotion and quality broadcasting. And it is always a flat out treat to have him on. So that should be fun to look forward to right after the game. And remember, whatever happens, no matter how negative, no matter how positive things are, we'll always be with you on Bear With Me, ready to have a good time one way or another. And as people described it, depending on how bad it gets, it can be a therapy session if it needs to be. And other than that, it'll be fun. So we're excited and we'll see you then.
Thanks, guys.